I'm going to talk about using generative AI to automate business processes. So a lot of you will probably have used ChatGPT in some form. Anybody who didn't use ChatGPT before? Nobody. That's cool. Everybody is using it these days. So we're taking it a step further beyond using a conversational interface to basically ask questions and then get silly answers back. We use this stuff to automate, for example, a publication of a podcast that we built. And we use AI in various stages in that. So this won't be a technical talk, this will be a lot of where can you use generative AI in your business process and how do you approach it. I'm Willem, I work as a chief AI architect for agency. It's my job to keep everybody on the straight and narrow building AI solutions. So we're mostly talking about generative AI this week at the Next Web, but actually we do a lot more. We build machine learning solutions on tabular data. We also build solutions using computer vision. For example, we work on a project where we try to find out if somebody is likely to have Alzheimer's or Parkinson's disease using several exercises and then videotaping those exercises using an app. And then we can analyze the video and see, oh, here in this video I see a particular movement pattern that's likely Parkinson's disease. So that's the sort of stuff that we work on. It's quite a broad range of assignments that we work on for our clients, consultancy based. But we do host machine learning models where people say, okay, I can't host them myself. So that's my daily job. My daily job doesn't stop at 5 p.m. I'm the crazy person that also writes about it, records podcasts, videos, that sort of stuff. And Microsoft awarded me for the 8th time last year the Microsoft Most Valuable Professional Award. That's an award you get for helping the community learn more about software development or AI. So that's a hobby project. Thanks. So like I said, we build custom AI solutions. It's quite a long list of clients on this slide. That's our focus. We're backed by a large consultancy company, so we can do this from start to finish. We can ideate the model, we can build it, we can test it, and then run it in production all the way to the end. So one of the things that we learned over the past few months is that a conversational interface with ChatGPT is already very powerful for many cases. So marketing, we see a lot of adoption in marketing of generative AI. We also see a lot of adoption in software engineering also. Developers love GitHub Copilot, and they are starting to do a lot more than building a single function or writing this single LinkedIn post. We're trying to connect all the dots in business processes together and use generative AI and AI in general in almost every step. So that's an interesting development. And yeah, we learned that generative AI can provide you with a lot of improvements and accelerate how you build your business. A lot of the tedious jobs you can now automate and give to AI and say, okay, I don't have to think about it anymore, I just need to verify and that's it. About 20 to 30% of the work in a business process can actually be automated with AI. That's quite a large increase in efficiency and speed. And what Deloitte did a survey on productivity gains that you can get with generative AI, and they said 63% of the people experience an increase in efficiency. We did the same test internally at agency and tried to figure out, okay, we build a lot of code to build AI models. What does that mean for us? And we're seeing similar figures, actually. We build AI models, but we also use AI to build those AI models these days. It saves us a lot of time. We're a small team, so yeah, it's kind of hard to keep up if you're not doing that. So what I would like to do is talk you through 5 challenges that we found out about while trying to use AI to automate business processes. So one of the challenges that companies face these days is an aging workforce. People get older, and it's hard to find new young people to get into the business. And let's be honest, after COVID, you see a drop in productivity because people get sick more often. That's a challenge. And the way out of this is likely going to be more automation. But automation gets harder, so AI is a likely candidate here to apply to the problem. I mean, the 80-plus age group nearly quadrupled in the last several years, and that's crazy. This will keep on increasing, so we'll have less people to do the same amount, if not more work. But generative AI can help you in this case. But before we dive into solutions here, I think it's good to take a step back and talk about what is generative AI then. Because we've all seen ChatGPT, we've all created images, maybe used it for some sound things, but it's good to establish what is generative AI and how can it help in this case. So it sounds like a solution that generates new stuff, but that's actually not fully true. It's mostly transforming a short form data, for example, a question from you, a prompt, into a piece of text or an image. It's a transformative piece of AI, although we call it generative. And the generative portion comes from the fact that you're typing in 1 or 2 sentences and out comes a one-pager full of interesting observations from GPT that might or might not be true. And you can use it for all sorts of things. So text is the most obvious choice, of course, generating documents, generating marketing text. But you can also generate music. It might not be the next top 100 hit in the Netherlands, but hey, it's at least rights free. It's your music from then on, and you can use it for your podcast, for your website, for whatever you want, and you can save a lot of time and money using this technology. So, yeah, as I said, it's a transformative form of AI, and it's often used for text, images, videos, or data. And one funny observation here is that it's usually a prompt that's used as input. Although you could, of course, use an image. You could say, I've got this color image, make it black and white. Or I've got this image of a person, make a caricature out of it. But most of the cases are actually text-based. Text to speech, text to image, text to other text. So when you think about what can I use generative AI for to help me solve the challenge of my aging workforce and the limited number of people that I have available to me? Well, one area you could use generative AI to more effectively transfer skills from one person to the other. So you could ask a more senior member of your team to write down guidance on how to perform a certain set of tasks, or their thoughts on how should you approach a particular problem. Especially in a tech-intensive industry, this is an important step to take these days. Because you can do almost anything with a computer, but it's quite hard to decide what should I do with a computer. So if you can write that down and then give it to a chatbot, and a person, a junior developer or a junior marketing specialist can use it to quickly find focused pieces of knowledge. That's basically what it is. You can also use it for workflow optimization. I mean, you could read a Word document from start to finish and follow all the steps. Oh, I need to do this, and then this, and then this, and then this. It's quite easy to forget steps. That's my experience, at least, in this area. What you could do is you could, again, turn this into a sort of a conversational experience and say, okay, I've already done this, this, and this, and this, and this. What's the next step? And it can help you guide your experience towards the next step. But you can take it a lot further. This is a conversational approach, but you could also integrate generative AI into your application and say, okay, this person is at screen X, they press these buttons and they enter this information, and I can feed that information to my generative AI, and the generative AI could, without ever talking to it, say, oh, I see that you've done this, now you need to do these and these steps to finish up. Especially in more complicated cases, this can improve things hugely. And then finally, and this is where we use this automation part the most, is actually routine stuff. Get rid of it out of your process. So, for example, for publishing a podcast, you want to publish a short summary on LinkedIn of your podcast episode. You can write it yourself, but you have to listen back an hour-long podcast episode and then decide what's interesting. What you could also do is say, OpenAI Whisper, I'm translating the audio into text, and then taking the text and then asking GPT-4, can you make a summary for me that's suitable for LinkedIn? And what will happen is it will rewrite your text into something with emoticons that seems to favorable for many people, and then you can place that on LinkedIn. So there are many things in business processes that are just routine tasks, and it doesn't make sense to spend a whole lot of money on that one. So, yeah, limited resources are a challenge when you want to improve your business process. You might be thinking by now, and especially after hearing maybe other speakers at the Next Web and seeing things on LinkedIn and internet, I want to use this stuff and I want to do everything. But that's quite hard. You can't improve a whole business process in a day, let alone if you want to use AI. You might not be successful immediately, so it's wise to make a choice. Where do I start? And one of the things that you want to do is you want to spend time getting insight in your business processes. And I can tell you from experience that not many organizations actually spend a lot of time visualizing their business processes. Or if they do, they could go completely overboard. That happens too. Many of us here in this room, I can be sure, don't have a clear diagram of all of their business processes. Who has a diagram of every possible business process in their organization right now? Like nobody. So I'm not saying you should do this for every possible business process. But if you want to start automating parts of a business process using generative AI, the first thing you should do is actually gain insight into the process itself. And the way that we approach this is actually by using business process model notation, BPMN. It's a language that allows you to effectively diagram out every step in your process. Where do we have to wait for somebody else? Where do I need to get a notification from a customer? Where do I send out an email to a customer? Where do I have to make choices in the process? Those are all things that can help you decide what do I want to automate with generative AI. And it looks similar to this one. We obviously spiced it up. It's normally black and white, but it looks like this. So there's a starting point on the left. That's the start of your business process. You have to go somewhere. Then tasks are placed in those boxes, and you give them a short name. And then decisions, you can say, okay, I've got this special notation for that. And you can say, okay, is it okay? Fulfill the order, send the invoice. This immediately tells you, where am I sending out information that I could generate using AI? Where am I receiving information that I could interpret using AI and translate into a system command, for example? Why am I saying you should use something like BPMN? Well, the challenge here is if I go up to a business analyst, if I talk to somebody at the support desk, and I ask them, so how do you handle, for example, a support case? And they will start talking, and it's pretty unclear what to do. BPMN, if you go back and you make a diagram of it and you show it to them, they will immediately say, I see that you do this here, you make this decision, but that's not true. We make that earlier, or we don't do that at all. So it helps. get a good grip on it. The other thing is that BPMN is a industry standard. It can be automated using tools. And this is where it becomes even cooler. You can say, I'm saving this business process in my file, and I can load it up in a tool like Camunda or a similar tool, and I can automate it. I can make API calls from my process towards a existing CRM system or my email system. So it's not a huge step going from actually documenting what we're doing to automating what we're doing. And it's flexible. Most editors that you use for documenting this stuff are super flexible. You can add in extra shapes, you can move stuff around. There are so many ways of writing down things in BPMN. I can assure you 100% of business processes can be documented this way. The thing, however, is if you have this insight in your business process, there's a risk of sub-optimization. You might actually be focusing on the wrong things here. I could say, for example, in receive order and send invoice, I can accelerate that by using AI. However, what happens in this case? I need to restock inventory and fulfill the order in parallel. You could optimize one of the two here, but you gain nothing. It takes as long as the step that takes the longest. If it takes me 2 weeks to restock my warehouse with products that I want to send out, I can try to use AI to fulfill the order and optimize that, but it doesn't give me anything. And this is a little bit of a lame example. But you will find in your business processes that there are steps that happen in parallel where you might want to try and use AI, but then you have to use AI in both spots, or not at all. That's up to you to decide, but at least I want to make you aware that it's very important to spend some time thinking about, am I optimizing the right thing? So think about bottlenecks. Yeah. A lot of my customers actually that come up to me, they've heard about generative AI, they've heard about ChatGPT, and then they come up to me and they say, I want to do something with AI, and I want to do it myself. That's fine, you can do that. But be aware that generative AI sounds easy when you use ChatGPT, but in reality there's a lot more stuff that needs to happen before you can be productive with this with generative AI. So as an organization, you need to be aware that you're making an investment in generative AI in general, actually. So it's a learning process, and there will be mistakes. So it might not be something that's happening in 2 weeks. It's a process that took us a couple of years to adopt generative AI to the level where we are at right now. So if you're just starting out or doing this for 6 months, prepare for a longer road. And that's because most people will know about GPT-4 as a single model that's available. But if I told you that there's on Hugging Face, a public website that hosts language models and other large models, 30,000 models, then suddenly it's a whole different ballgame. Then what do I choose? The candy store is open. You can choose anything you like, but not everything works. So either you go the route of learning this stuff, or you call in an expert. And if you want to go fast, then probably get an expert. If you're in for the longer run, then I suggest learning some of the things yourself. So there's a couple of options here. If you want to optimize your business process, if you can stop doing what you're doing, please do that. Don't use AI ever. It will save you a lot of money, and it will save you a lot of time. Again, if you could use a template to structure information and make it higher quality so people have to read less and have an easier time interpreting it, please use a template. Don't start with AI, use a template. Can you use it? Can you automate it with software using rules? Do that. Don't use AI. AI is inexact, inaccurate. It's a challenging technology. If that doesn't work, then we'll get into the realm of machine learning and AI. And in that case, you can use that. So, just to be clear, if we're talking about AI, then AI is the main topic. AI can be then split out in machine learning and deep learning. Machine learning being the more classical approach, less compute power needed, less data needed to get it working. If you're going the deep learning route, that's sort of going in the direction of generative AI, you need a lot more compute power, a lot more knowledge to get that working. So that's why we explicitly say here, if you can do it with simple machine learning models, please do. Don't use generative AI, it's quite hard to manage. If that doesn't work, if you come to the conclusion I need to process language, large portions of language, and I need to provide complicated instructions, then generative AI is a solution for you. But still be careful what you're doing. As you can imagine, if you do nothing, that's 0 minutes. If you start doing generative AI, I can assure you that's 6 months plus to get that working correctly. And I mean, it's always an option. If you try it out with generative AI and it doesn't work for you, that can happen. We've seen cases where it doesn't work. Please stop and go back to your old process. That's probably a good idea. And in this case, go back to the beginning and start to check, can I do it in a different way so it does work with generative AI or another solution. If you decide at some point that you want to use generative AI, then I've got one final piece of advice for you. And that's, please make sure that your stuff keeps working. We all think GPT-4 is one thing, it's one model. I'm here to bust that myth. Every 3 months, I receive new models for GPT-4. Mark my words, that's not an upgrade. That's a new model. Some things will be better, other things will be worse. So we've seen, for example, that reasoning got a lot better in GPT-4. But basic text analysis got worse. Hallucinations got worse over time. And it might change in the future. I've just received access to GPT-4o through the technical interface outside of ChatGPT, so we're going to test that thoroughly, what it will mean for us. But it's something to keep in mind, that generative AI changes fast and often, and in ways that are unpredictable. So you want to invest in a process where you stay on top of things. And here's how that works. So the basic is like, I'm asking a question, pulling it through a language model, and then I will get a response. So prompt and response. But the model is going to change, and how am I going to do that? Going to fix that? Is by using engineered prompts. That's the trick here. So basically what we do is we'll record a set of sample prompts that we know worked in the past, and the associated responses. And that's what we use to measure the performance of the new model. Is the new response practically the same as the old one, for example? But there's more to it. So what we've done actually to learn more about this, how do I use an engineered prompt, is Niels and Joop, my colleagues, have a podcast about AI, a Dutch podcast, and their process is hugely automated using AI. And they used engineered prompts to validate if we're still able to successfully publish a podcast using AI. And what they made is a tool, and this tool, basically, you give it a set of prompts in a prompt file. You can see that in the table at the bottom. And what we do is we describe tests for it. So for example, we can ask it, is this response coherent? And the way we do that is actually we give the prompt and the answer to GPT-4, and then we ask GPT-4, give a score on this aspect, coherency. How coherent is this response? And then it will give me a score of 1 to 5. So it's kind of funny. You can use AI to test AI in this case. That's, by the way, the only way that we know of that actually works. And it's still not perfect. 88% of the cases are correct. And the rest is, it will give you an answer that doesn't make sense. So it's kind of hard to deal with at this point. But that's just one question. The other question that we can ask, for example, is this answer short or long? Because sometimes you want a short answer, sometimes you want a long answer. Is this response harmful to anybody? That's another question that we ask. And this tool runs all the prompts and answers through the machine, and then it gives us scores back. So how accurate is this for our use case? And that helps hugely in deciding, okay, is this a good idea to continue use GPT-4 or switch the model to a new one, or optimize our prompts? Because you can edit the prompt and go back and run the test again, and you can verify, oh, this is better, cool. And I don't have one sample to work with, but 100. So that's kind of cool. That saves us a lot of time in the long run. And this is one of the details views. So in this case, we asked it, check if a guest is mentioned in the text. If there's a guest, is this guest mentioned in the first sentence? Answer with yes or no. That's kind of a cool test. You can ask it, is this the case? And it will say yes. In this case, okay, test passed. So that's kind of cool. So we can do a lot of things with generative AI these days. And for somebody who is technical, this sounds really cool to do. I think business people will also be very excited about the possibilities, but it's important, make sure that you're choosing wisely. A strategic approach is important here. Sometimes it's just better not to use AI. The same thing goes for implementing then your AI solution, your generative AI. Make sure that you do it in a balanced way. So if you can eliminate a step in your process, please do that. Don't use AI. Make sure that you do the right thing. And finally, invest in lifecycle management. Make sure that it stays working in the long run. Don't assume that it works. I've seen cases where we asked the first time to GPT-4 and it would answer correctly, and then we asked it again and it will still work. And then 2 days later, model didn't change, suddenly it didn't work anymore. It's rather unstable in that sense. And that's all I have to talk about today. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me.